Pain is not punishment, it is a wake-up call. It comes when something in your life has reached its limit, when a way of thinking, a way of loving, or a way of living has outlived its purpose. Pain does not arrive to destroy you, it arrives to get your attention. Most people misread pain as a sign that something has gone wrong, when in truth, it is often the most honest signal that something deep within you is ready to change. Pain has a voice, and that voice says, "Wake up, look closer. There is more to you than what you have been settling for." It shakes you out of complacency, out of illusions, out of the comfortable patterns that keep you small. It strips away what no longer fits, even when you cling to it, because life loves you too much to let you stay asleep. When heartbreak hits, it doesn't just break your heart, it breaks your patterns. It tears open the surface of your life and exposes the raw truth underneath. The truth about what you value, what you need, what you've been avoiding. That's why it hurts so much, because pain reveals. It doesn't introduce anything new. It simply exposes what was already there, hidden beneath distraction and routine. The silence that follows heartbreak can be deafening, but within that silence lies a message that only pain can deliver. It says, now that everything external has fallen away, can you finally hear your own soul? That's the invitation inside every painful experience, the call to meet yourself again at a deeper level. Pain is not here to punish you for loving, for trusting, or for hoping. It is here to refine you. When you love deeply and lose, it's easy to think life has betrayed you. But in reality, life is inviting you to expand your capacity for love, to learn that love was never meant to be confined to one person, one outcome, or one version of the future. Pain teaches you that love is not just what you give to another, it is the energy you must now learn to give to yourself. It teaches you that your worth does not depend on who stays or who leaves. It shakes the false foundation so that you can build on truth. You can't awaken to your power while you're asleep in comfort. Growth demands disruption, and pain is the most direct form of disruption life has to offer. When life is easy, we drift. We become attached to routine, to approval, to temporary forms of happiness. Pain breaks that trance. It wakes you up to the reality that nothing external can guarantee lasting peace. It reminds you that your security must come from within. You may resist it, curse it, or try to numb it, but pain persists until its message is heard. It is patient and persistent because its purpose is sacred. It will keep knocking at the door of your awareness until you open it and say, "All right, I'm listening." And once you listen, once you stop running and start feeling, something remarkable happens. You begin to transform. You start seeing that pain is not a wall, but a mirror, showing you the parts of yourself that need your love, not your judgment. Pain's purpose is not to make you bitter, but to make you conscious. It reveals attachments that were disguised as love, beliefs that were disguised as truth, and fears that were disguised as logic. When heartbreak comes, it's easy to focus on the loss, but underneath that loss is a lesson about what you were giving away: your peace, your boundaries, your power, and the call now is to reclaim them. Pain makes you face yourself. It doesn't care for your excuses, it demands honesty. It asks you to see how much of your life has been shaped by fear of rejection, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough. It calls out the lies you've told yourself for comfort. It demands that you trade fantasy for authenticity. And though it feels like punishment, it is in truth the highest form of correction. When you stop seeing pain as an enemy, you begin to feel its intelligence. Pain is precise. It shows up exactly where healing is required. It arrives in the areas of your life that are misaligned with your purpose. If you keep ignoring the whispers of intuition, pain will speak louder. If you continue to live below your truth, pain will shake the ground until you can no longer ignore it. It's not cruelty, it's compassion disguised as chaos. Life doesn't break you to destroy you, it breaks you to break open the parts that have been closed off. It removes what's false so that what's real can breathe. Every heartbreak is a release of what could no longer serve your evolution. It may feel like loss, but it's actually space being made for something more aligned with who you're becoming. You see, the difference between those who crumble under pain and those who rise through it lies in perception. When you believe pain is punishment, you resist it, and resistance multiplies suffering. But when you understand it as communication, you begin to cooperate with it. You start asking, "What are you trying to teach me?" rather than, "Why is this happening to me?" That single shift opens a new dimension of power. Pain ceases to be something happening to you and becomes something happening for you. Every tear, Every sleepless night, every moment of emptiness becomes sacred ground for awakening. Pain teaches empathy, patience, humility, and courage, qualities that cannot be learned through comfort alone. The truth is, pain is a mirror reflecting your power back to you. The intensity of your pain often measures the depth of your potential. The reason heartbreak hurts so deeply is because it activates the same energy that, when redirected, becomes purpose. Pain cracks the shell of illusion so that purpose can emerge. It burns away dependency, clears the fog of fear, and awakens your will to rebuild. Pain reminds you that you are not fragile, you are being refined. What you once called punishment is often preparation. It is the universe, shaking you awake, whispering through your tears, you are meant for more than this. Energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be redirected. Every emotion, every thought, every heartbeat carries energy, and that energy must go somewhere. When love ends, when dreams collapse, when the person or purpose you poured yourself into disappears, the energy you invested doesn't vanish. It remains alive within you, waiting for direction. Most people believe that when they lose someone or something dear, they lose the love itself. But what they truly lose is the outlet through which that love once flowed. The energy of love, passion, and desire still exists. It's simply suspended, searching for a new form of expression. That is why heartbreak feels like chaos, because energy that once had focus suddenly has nowhere to go. But the moment you understand that this energy is still yours, still vibrant, still potent, you begin to reclaim your power. You stop mourning the outlet and start mastering the source. Pain only multiplies when energy has no direction. Think of it like a river that's been blocked. The water doesn't stop existing. It builds pressure, overflows, and floods everything in its path. Emotional energy works the same way. When you suppress your feelings, when you try to pretend that the hurt isn't there, that energy doesn't dissolve. It turns inward, manifesting as anxiety, anger, or exhaustion. Suppression is not healing. Transformation happens when you consciously choose to redirect that energy toward growth. The same passion that once longed for someone else can be redirected toward building yourself, creating something meaningful, or pursuing a higher vision. The energy is neutral. You are the one who gives it purpose. The force that fueled your attachment can now fuel your evolution. Heartbreak is not the end of energy, it's the redirection of it. When love leaves your life, it doesn't mean you are empty. It means the universe is challenging you to reassign that love, to expand it beyond its previous container. You may have given all your energy to someone who could not hold it, and when they leave, it feels as if life has stolen your light. But that light was never theirs to take. It was always yours. What you're feeling in the aftermath of heartbreak is not the absence of energy, but the overflow of energy with no outlet. That's why you feel restless, why your thoughts race, why you can't sleep. Energy that powerful cannot remain stagnant. It's asking to be moved, expressed, reborn in a new form through purpose, through creativity, through self-discovery. Energy, by its nature, seeks direction. If you don't consciously guide it, it will find its own path, often through destructive patterns. That's why many people after heartbreak fall into cycles of anger, bitterness, or self-sabotage. They are still using the same energy, but it's flowing through the channel of pain rather than purpose. The difference between destruction and creation is direction. The same fire that burns a house down can also forge metal. The power that once fueled your love for another person can now fuel your love for life, your commitment to your growth, your drive to fulfill the purpose you were born for. The key is awareness to realize that energy obeys intention. Wherever your focus goes, energy follows. You can't control how people treat you or whether they stay, but you can control where you channel your energy afterward. When you redirect it towards self-understanding, reflection, and creation, you transform what once felt like loss into momentum. Instead of letting heartbreak drain you, you let it deepen you. That's what redirection does. It converts pain into potential. It's like alchemy of the soul. The lead of loss becomes the gold of wisdom. Every great piece of art, every great business, every transformation story was born from redirected energy. Someone took the force of what broke them and used it to build something greater. The energy didn't disappear, it evolved. You are the conductor of your energy. Every emotion, even the ones you fear, is just energy moving through you, asking for a purpose. When you feel anger, it's energy demanding change. When you feel sadness, it's energy asking for reflection. When you feel love, it's energy yearning for connection. None of these are wrong, they just need guidance. Heartbreak gives you the opportunity to become conscious of this power within you, to stop being a passive receiver of emotions and start being an intentional director of them. The moment you realize this, you stop saying, they took everything from me, and start saying, they released energy I didn't know I had. That shift alone changes the trajectory of your healing. Energy, when consciously redirected, becomes creativity, movement, and healing. It moves through action. If you sit still and think about pain, the energy circles endlessly in your mind, feeding more thought. But when you express it, when you write, move, build, serve, or create, that same energy begins to flow outward, cleansing you as it moves. This is why action is so essential in healing. You cannot think your way out of pain. You must move your way through it. You must give the energy of heartbreak a job to do. Let it teach you discipline. Let it drive your passion. Let it inspire your empathy. When you redirect that energy towards something meaningful, pain loses its grip because it has been repurposed. Every great transformation begins with an energy shift. The people who seem powerful after heartbreak aren't those who never felt pain. They are the ones who learned how to recycle it. They turned the heat of disappointment into the fire of determination. They stopped feeding the narrative of loss and started feeding the vision of purpose. The moment you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what can I create with this energy? Your vibration rises. You begin to magnetize opportunities, people, and experiences that resonate with your new direction. Energy doesn't care about the story you attach to it. It only responds to the frequency you hold. When you hold bitterness, it multiplies pain. When you hold purpose, it multiplies power. Heartbreak is the moment when life returns your energy to you. It may come disguised as emptiness, but that emptiness is simply space. Space for new energy to flow. Space for new creation to begin. The energy you once invested outward is now returning inward, ready to build you from the inside out. When you stop seeing heartbreak as the end and start seeing it as redistribution, you awaken to your creative authority. You remember that energy was never lost, only waiting for your command, waiting for you to say, now, this power is mine. Your story is not what happened, it is what you decide it means. Life gives you experiences, but it does not assign them value you do. Two people can live through the exact same event, yet one will emerge stronger, wiser, and more empowered, while the other will become bitter, stagnant, and disillusioned. The difference is in perception, in the interpretation of the experience. Heartbreak, loss, failure, rejection, these are raw materials. They have no inherent power unless you allow them to define you. If you let them dictate your worth, they become chains. If you choose the meaning behind them, they become wings. Every moment of pain carries a lesson, an opportunity, a seed of transformation. The person who suffers and does not grow merely experiences life. The person who learns from suffering evolves through life. When someone breaks your heart, it is easy to tell yourself that the story is over, that you are powerless, that the world has robbed you of your happiness. But this is not the story. It is a narrative your mind creates out of habit and fear. The truth is that you are always in control of your interpretation. Every thought you give energy to shapes your perception of reality. If you tell yourself, I am broken, then you experience a life filtered through brokenness. If you tell yourself, I am learning, I am growing, I am becoming, then even the pain becomes a tool for elevation. Meaning is not found outside of you, it is created within you. It is a conscious decision to assign value, to choose the lens through which you see your life. And in that choice lies your power. Heartbreak magnifies the stories we tell ourselves. It forces us to confront narratives about love, trust, worth, and identity. Often, these narratives are not true. They are inherited, learned, or assumed. You may carry the belief that love is scarce, that people leave when life gets hard, or that loss defines your value. These stories do not serve you. They limit you. But the moment you recognize that a story is just a story, a mental construct, you gain freedom. You can rewrite it. You can take the events of your life, the betrayals, the disappointments, the endings, and craft from them a narrative of growth, resilience, and empowerment. Your history does not imprison you, your interpretation of it does. The power of assigning meaning lies in its ability to convert pain into clarity. When a relationship ends, you have a choice to see it as a rejection, an abandonment, or a confirmation of unworthiness, or to see it as a lesson, a wake-up call, and a doorway to your highest self. When a career opportunity fails, you can view it as failure, or you can see it as a redirection towards something better. The universe does not label experiences as good or bad. It simply provides circumstances and energy. Meaning is the lens that transforms experience from chaos into coherence, from suffering into insight, from loss into opportunity. When you learn to consciously choose meaning, you take control of the narrative of your life. You no longer react, you respond. You no longer suffer passively, you evolve actively. Human beings are natural storytellers. We instinctively create explanations for everything that happens to us. But the stories we tell are not neutral. They shape our identity, our emotions, and our behavior. If you allow a story of heartbreak to define you as unlucky or unlovable, then your future is limited by that interpretation. If you choose instead to tell a story of awakening, self-discovery, and resilience, then every future choice, every action, every relationship is influenced by empowerment rather than fear. Your story becomes a tool, a compass pointing you toward your purpose. You become the author, not the victim. And once you understand this, you can face the past without fear because it is no longer a chain, it is a chapter you have mastered. Assigning empowering meaning does not mean denying pain or pretending life is easy. It means seeing the larger picture and reclaiming authority over your perception. The intensity of heartbreak is undeniable. It can feel like it will consume you. But if you step back and ask, what is this teaching me? What growth does this invite? You transform the pain into clarity. Every tear can become a lesson, every sleepless night an opportunity to reflect, and every ache a reminder of your capacity to endure and transcend. You move from victimhood to authorship, from reaction to creation, from suffering to strategy. Your mind becomes a tool of liberation rather than imprisonment. Life constantly offers feedback, but it is neutral. It is our interpretation that assigns value, and in that assignment lies either our bondage or our freedom. Heartbreak is a mirror, showing where you have invested energy, trust, and expectation. It reveals beliefs that no longer serve you, patterns that require adjustment, and strengths that have been dormant. The story you tell yourself about the experience determines whether it becomes a wound or a weapon. Every person who has turned adversity into greatness understood this principle. They did not allow circumstance to dictate meaning, they dictated meaning to circumstance. They knew that interpretation precedes action and that every outcome is shaped by the lens through which it is seen. Choosing the meaning of your story transforms suffering into insight and chaos into opportunity. It turns despair into clarity, loss into awakening, and heartbreak into preparation. When you decide that your story is about growth, resilience, and the reclamation of your power, the events themselves change in significance. You may still feel the sting of betrayal, the emptiness of loss, or the ache of longing, but you also feel the surge of potential, the spark of possibility, and the invitation to evolve. Meaning gives you agency. It allows you to step into the role of author, not victim. It is the moment when you realize that the past cannot bind you unless you permit it, and the present cannot define you unless you choose its narrative, and that the future is yours to script through intention, focus, and conscious interpretation. Forgiveness is freedom, not approval. It is one of the most misunderstood concepts in human experience because people often mistake it for condoning wrongs, excusing bad behavior, or pretending that hurt never happened. True forgiveness does not require reconciliation or continued relationship. It does not mean you allow someone to remain in your life or give them permission to repeat their mistakes. Forgiveness is a decision, a conscious choice to release the heavy burden of resentment, anger, or bitterness that chains you to the very pain you wish to escape. When someone betrays you, abandons you, or causes heartbreak, it is natural to feel rage, sadness, or injustice. These feelings are real and valid, but if they are held indefinitely, they create a prison in your mind and a barrier in your heart. Forgiveness is the key that opens that prison, not for them, but for you. It is the act of reclaiming your emotional power, of refusing to let another person's actions dictate the climate of your inner world. Holding resentment is like carrying a stone in your hand, expecting the other person to be crushed by its weight. But it is you who bears the burden. Every thought of revenge, every replay of past injuries, every whispered condemnation strengthens the chains of suffering. Forgiveness, in its purest form, is the act of dropping the stone. It does not mean denying the truth of what happened, but it means refusing to remain a hostage to it. You acknowledge the pain, honor the lessons, and then release the grip. This release is not a single act. It is often a process, a conscious return to choice each time your mind drifts back to the past. And with every moment you choose forgiveness, you create space within yourself, space for peace, clarity, and the emergence of personal power. Forgiveness is also a radical form of self-respect. It says, I will not allow your actions to define the rest of my life. When you forgive, you remove the invisible control others have over you. Heartbreak is painful not only because of loss, but because it often leaves you tethered to the past, replaying the story over and over, replaying what went wrong and why. Each mental replay feeds anger, despair, and self-doubt. Forgiveness interrupts that cycle. It allows the mind to stop circling the same destructive patterns and redirects attention to growth, opportunity, and possibility. It does not erase the past. It changes your relationship with it. It shifts the story from one of victimhood to one of authority, from suffering to sovereignty. To forgive is not to minimize your own pain. In fact, it is often an acknowledgement of the depth of that pain and a refusal to let it continue to control you. It is saying, I have felt the full weight of this hurt, and I choose to rise above it. Forgiveness is empowerment because it transfers responsibility back to you. You are no longer living in reaction to someone else's choices or behavior. You are living in conscious alignment with your own values and your own path. The act of forgiving is a declaration that you will not be held hostage by circumstance, emotion, or the mistakes of others. It is the reclamation of your agency. It is the moment when pain stops being a shackle and becomes a teacher, a catalyst, a signal that your power lies not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself. Forgiveness also allows love and compassion to return where they have been suppressed. Holding grudges hardens the heart, creates distance, and inhibits growth. When you forgive, you soften internally, creating room for empathy, understanding, and even gratitude. You may not condone what happened, but you recognize that all people act according to their level of awareness at any given moment. This understanding does not excuse harm, but it reframes it, placing the focus not on blame, but on learning and evolution. Forgiveness allows the energy that was trapped in anger to be repurposed toward healing, toward creating, toward living fully. It is a conscious choice to reclaim the energy that resentment would otherwise consume. Forgiveness also accelerates personal transformation. Heartbreak often forces self-reflection, asking you to confront unmet needs, unhealed wounds, and unexamined beliefs. Holding on to anger or bitterness only delays the lessons embedded within the experience. Forgiveness clears the mental and emotional space necessary to integrate these lessons and emerge stronger, wiser, and more resilient. It transforms suffering into insight, rage into resolve, and despair into determination. In essence, forgiveness is an act of alchemy, converting the lead of pain into the gold of personal power. Without it, the cycle of hurt repeats, keeping you tethered to experiences that no longer serve you. With it, you break the cycle, reclaim your power, and open the door to possibility, growth, and the manifestation of your highest potential. Forgiveness is a gift to yourself, an act of radical self-care. It frees your mind from obsession, your heart from bitterness, and your spirit from stagnation. It allows you to navigate life with clarity, strength, and purpose. It does not depend on the other person's actions or acknowledgement. It is entirely within your control. The power of forgiveness is that it returns your energy, your focus, and your freedom. The one who forgives becomes unstoppable because they no longer carry the weight of the past. They carry only the wisdom of it. In forgiving, you choose peace over conflict, mastery over victimhood, and growth over stagnation. It is the ultimate act of reclaiming your life, asserting your dignity, and stepping fully into the personal power that heartbreak attempted to obscure but could never destroy. Gratitude is one of the most underrated and yet most transformative forces in human life, especially in times of heartbreak and pain. When your heart is broken, the natural tendency is to focus on loss, betrayal, disappointment, and the what could have been. Your mind becomes a magnet for scarcity, your thoughts circling around emptiness and unfairness. But gratitude shifts the focus from what is missing to what is present, from despair to awareness, from limitation to possibility. It is not about pretending that pain does not exist or that life is perfect. True gratitude is a conscious choice to recognize the value hidden within every experience, to see the lessons, the growth, and the small blessings that continue to exist even in the midst of suffering. It is a lens that reframes reality, transforming the emotional impact of heartbreak into an opportunity for expansion rather than contraction. Gratitude is powerful because it shifts energy. Energy always flows where attention goes. And when your Attention is trapped in pain, it fuels more pain. When your attention is directed toward gratitude, even for the smallest things, a warm cup of coffee, a conversation with a friend, a moment of quiet reflection, energy begins to circulate in a more constructive, life-affirming way. This shift is not minor, it is profound. The very act of acknowledging something positive amidst heartbreak releases tension, reduces mental clutter, and invites clarity. It rewires the brain to notice opportunities, not obstacles, to notice abundance, not absence. Gratitude acts like a lens that brings the hidden beauty of life into focus, reminding you that even in loss, there is life to be lived, love to be given, and potential to be realized. When heartbreak strikes, it is easy to feel abandoned and to believe that life is unfair. But gratitude teaches that every experience, even the painful ones, contains a seed of empowerment. When you practice gratitude for what you have learned from the experience, you stop being a passive victim and start becoming an active participant in your own transformation. The lessons embedded in heartbreak: resilience, self-awareness, emotional intelligence, patience, and discernment are invaluable gifts if you are willing to recognize them. Gratitude shifts your perspective from "why me" to "what can I take from this?" It transforms despair into insight, weakness into strength, and loss into preparation for what is next. Gratitude is not simply an attitude, it is a practice. It requires conscious effort, especially when emotions are raw and the instinct is to ruminate on pain. It may start with listing the obvious blessings: health, shelter, supportive relationships, or a mind capable of reflection, but it can extend deeper to include the gratitude for personal growth, for the capacity to feel deeply, and for the lessons that heartbreak brings. Every moment of suffering, every tear shed, every sleepless night can become a teacher if you are willing to acknowledge its contribution to your evolution. Gratitude trains the mind to see life as a continuous flow of opportunities for learning and expansion rather than a series of setbacks and failures. The practice of gratitude also strengthens resilience. When you intentionally focus on what is positive, you create an emotional buffer against future pain. You learn that your well-being does not depend entirely on external circumstances, on the actions of others, or on fleeting pleasures. Gratitude reconnects you to an inner source of stability, a reservoir of strength that exists regardless of heartbreak or loss. It reinforces the understanding that life is neither wholly good nor wholly bad, but a blend of experiences that can be appreciated for what they teach, for how they shape you, and for the opportunities they reveal. By cultivating gratitude, you build immunity against despair and cultivate the ability to thrive even when circumstances are challenging. Gratitude also has a ripple effect. When you acknowledge the value in your life and in your experiences, it changes the way you interact with others. You are less likely to project anger or bitterness, less likely to judge or blame, and more likely to act from a place of compassion, empathy, and generosity. Heartbreak often narrows the field of vision, making life appear harsh and people untrustworthy. Gratitude expands it, reminding you of connection, love, and abundance. It shifts your energy from contraction to expansion, from self-centered suffering to awareness of the broader tapestry of life in which your experience is only one thread. Another profound aspect of gratitude is its ability to reconnect you with your purpose. Heartbreak can leave you feeling unmoored, uncertain of your path, and disconnected from your goals. Gratitude redirects your focus from what has been lost to what remains, from absence to presence, and from limitation to potential. It reminds you that even in suffering, you have skills, insights, and capacities that can be used to build, create, and serve. By acknowledging these blessings, you reconnect with your inner power and the opportunities available to you, allowing heartbreak to become a catalyst rather than a cage. Ultimately, gratitude transforms perception and experience. It does not remove the pain, but it allows you to coexist with it without being dominated by it. It is an act of conscious choice, a mental discipline, and an emotional practice that reclaims your power from the chaos of heartbreak. Every moment that you focus on what is good, what is valuable, and what is meaningful, you strengthen your resilience, expand your capacity to love and create, and turn a painful chapter into a foundation for a richer, more empowered life. It is through gratitude that heartbreak becomes a teacher, life becomes a canvas, and personal power becomes not just a possibility, but a living reality. Action is the ultimate antidote to heartbreak. While pain, reflection, forgiveness, and gratitude are essential for transformation, none of them produce change without the deliberate choice to act. Heartbreak can be paralyzing because it creates a vacuum where inaction thrives. The mind becomes a theater of what ifs, if onlys, and endless ruminations that trap energy in loops of regret and fear. In these moments, the world feels heavy and the future uncertain. Yet action, even the smallest steps, shifts the balance from being a passive observer in your life to becoming an active creator. Action is the bridge between insight and transformation. It is the way you move from understanding your power to living it. Without it, lessons remain abstract, potential remains dormant, and heartbreak remains a lingering shadow rather than a springboard for growth. Taking action requires courage because it involves moving into the unknown. After a loss, whether in love, friendship, or career, it is natural to fear repeating past mistakes or experiencing further pain. This fear can immobilize you. Yet action is not about reckless or impulsive moves. It is about deliberate, intentional steps that align with your values, goals, and sense of purpose. Even when uncertainty is high, action creates momentum, and momentum dissolves fear. Every step taken, whether it is engaging in a new activity, pursuing a passion, reaching out to form new connections, or setting boundaries, is a declaration of power. It signals to yourself and the universe that you are no longer defined by heartbreak, but by the choices you make to create the life you desire. Action transforms emotional energy into tangible results. Heartbreak generates a storm of emotions: sadness, anger, regret, longing, all of which are powerful forms of energy. Left unchanneled, they can consume and debilitate. When directed into purposeful action, that same energy becomes fuel for change. Writing, creating, exercising, learning, volunteering, or pursuing professional goals are all ways to convert emotional turbulence into constructive outcomes. Action validates your growth. It reinforces your agency. You move from feeling like a victim of circumstance to recognizing yourself as a participant in the co-creation of your reality. Every completed step, no matter how small, builds confidence, strengthens resolve, and affirms the truth that your future is determined not by what happened to you, but by what you do next. Action is also a form of self-respect. When you take decisive steps toward your goals, you demonstrate to yourself that your life matters, that your time and energy are valuable, and that your happiness is not contingent upon anyone else's choices. Heartbreak can make you feel powerless, as though your life has been derailed. Action restores power by placing responsibility where it belongs, in your hands. You become the architect of your recovery, the sculptor of your new reality. Every choice to move forward, even in small ways, reinforces your autonomy and diminishes the control that past pain has over your psyche. Moreover, action accelerates clarity. While reflection, forgiveness, and gratitude provide insight, they can also lead to analysis paralysis if not accompanied by movement. It is in doing, experimenting, and testing possibilities that understanding deepens. You discover what works, what feels aligned, and what brings joy. You learn resilience not from thought alone, but from engagement with life. Action uncovers hidden strengths, reveals untapped potential, and uncovers opportunities that remained invisible while trapped in inaction. By actively participating in life, you learn that heartbreak is not an endpoint, but a catalyst that illuminates paths that were previously obscured by fear or sorrow. Action also communicates to the subconscious mind and to the universe that you are ready for transformation. Consistent, intentional steps create a pattern of behavior that rewires neural pathways, builds habits of empowerment, and reinforces self-belief. When thoughts and emotions are accompanied by purposeful deeds, your internal narrative shifts from victimhood to mastery. Your mind internalizes the truth that you are capable of overcoming challenges, of creating meaningful experiences, and of pursuing purpose with determination and courage. Every small act compounds, producing momentum that carries you beyond the gravitational pull of heartbreak into a space where personal power becomes natural, automatic, and undeniable. Importantly, action cultivates hope. Heartbreak can strip away vision, leaving life gray and opportunity distant. Taking steps forward, however incremental, generates progress and tangible evidence that life continues to offer possibilities. Hope is not a passive waiting for things to improve. It is the product of consistent movement toward what you desire, toward rebuilding, toward reclaiming your life. With each step, the future becomes more vivid, more reachable, and more aligned with your potential. Action transforms abstract hope into lived reality, demonstrating that transformation is not a matter of chance, but a matter of choice and effort. Action also inspires others. Your courage to move forward after heartbreak demonstrates to those around you that it is possible to rise above adversity, to reclaim joy, and to channel pain into purpose. In taking action, you become a living example that heartbreak does not define anyone's story, that every ending contains the potential for a new beginning, and that personal power is realized through effort, commitment, and deliberate choice. Each action taken, therefore, not only rebuilds your own life, but creates ripples that influence and elevate the lives of others. In essence, action is the manifestation of personal power. Heartbreak is inevitable, but stagnation is optional. By translating insight, forgiveness, gratitude, and lessons into tangible steps, you transform the abstract potential for growth into concrete, lived experience. Action allows you to move from reflection to creation, from pain to purpose, and from loss to the reclamation of your energy, joy, and vision. It is the final and essential ingredient that converts heartbreak from a defining limitation into a launching pad for an empowered, meaningful, and purposeful life.